The iron storm had been raging for 6 hours when Eli Vance heard the crash. He was sitting in his repair shop, a small building made of recycled metal plates and old shipping containers. The shop sat at the edge of the human colony on Seven, a mining moon so far from Earth that most people back home had never heard of it. Eli had lived here for 12 years. He fixed things. That was his job. Broken atmosphere processors, damaged mining drills, malfunctioning water recyclers. If it was broken, Eli could make it work again. The storm outside was one of the worst he had seen. Iron storms on Seven were dangerous. They filled the air with charged particles that could kill a person in minutes. The sky turned purple and green, and lightning struck the ground every few seconds. No one went outside during an iron storm. No one was that stupid. Eli heard the crash through his sensor equipment. It was a deep, heavy sound, the kind of sound a ship makes when it hits the ground hard. The sensors showed the impact point. It was in the Badlands, about 3 kilometers outside the colony's protective dome. He should have ignored it. The Badlands were toxic. The air there was poison. Anything that crashed out there was already dead or would be soon. But Eli looked at his sensor screen for a long time. The readings were strange. The crashed object was big, very big, and it was giving off energy signatures he had never seen before. He put on his environment suit. He checked his oxygen tanks. He walked to his crawler, a 6-wheeled vehicle with thick armor and a sealed cabin. He started the engine. "This is stupid," he said to himself. Then he drove out into the storm. The drive took almost an hour. The storm made it hard to see. The wind pushed the crawler sideways. Lightning struck the ground nearby and Eli felt the vehicle shake, but he kept driving. He followed his sensors toward the crash site. When he arrived, he stopped the crawler and stared. The wreckage was enormous. It was a ship, but not like any ship Eli had ever seen. The design was beautiful and alien. The metal was black with golden lines running through it, and even broken and burning, it looked like a work of art. Eli knew every type of spacecraft that came through this sector. He knew human ships, he knew consortium ships, he knew the vessels of a dozen different alien species. This ship did not belong to any of them. He climbed out of the crawler, staying close to it for safety. The storm raged around him. His suit protected him from the toxic air, but he could feel the iron particles crackling against his helmet. He had maybe 20 minutes before his suit's shielding failed. Eli approached the wreckage. He found an opening in the hull, a tear in the metal caused by the impact. He climbed inside. The interior of the ship was dark. Eli turned on his helmet light. He saw strange symbols on the walls, writing in a language he did not recognize. He saw control panels covered in dust. He saw seats designed for beings much larger than humans. Then he saw them. They were in the center of the ship in what might have been the main chamber. 2 creatures, each one longer than a transport shuttle. Their bodies were serpentine like massive snakes, but they had 4 limbs with clawed hands. Their scales shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting his helmet light in waves of silver and gold. Their heads were elegant and angular, with eyes that seemed too intelligent, too aware. Eli knew what they were. Everyone knew the stories. These were Titan dragons, the gods of the old universe, the beings who had built the first civilizations when the galaxy was young. They were supposed to be myths, legends, bedtime stories that alien parents told their children. They were also dying. Eli moved closer, his heart beating fast. He could see the wounds now. Black crystalline shards were buried in their bodies, dozens of them. The crystals seemed alive, pulsing with dark energy. Silver blood flowed from the wounds, pooling on the floor of the ship. One of the dragons opened its eyes. The eye was gold with a black pupil, and it focused on Eli with terrible clarity. Eli stopped breathing. He waited to die. But the dragon did not attack. It just looked at him with an expression Eli could not read. Pain, yes, but also something else. Surprise, maybe, or hope. Eli was a mechanic. He fixed things. He looked at the crystals embedded in the dragon's bodies, and he saw a problem that needed solving. The crystals were like parasites, feeding on the dragon's energy and growing deeper into their flesh. If he did not remove them, the dragons would die. He did not know why he cared. These creatures were alien. They were dangerous. They could probably kill him with a thought. But they were broken, and Eli could not walk away from something that was broken. He opened his tool kit. He pulled out his plasma cutter, his molecular scanner, his extraction tools. He got to work. The crystals were difficult to remove. They had roots that went deep into the dragon's bodies. Eli had to cut carefully, avoiding vital systems that he did not fully understand. He worked by instinct and experience. He treated the dragons like he would treat any machine, any broken system. He was patient. He was precise. He was respectful. The storm raged outside. Hours passed. Eli's oxygen ran low, and he had to return to his crawler twice to refill his tanks. But he kept working. He removed crystal after crystal, sealing wounds with medical foam designed for humans, but that seemed to work on dragon flesh. By the time the storm ended and the first light of dawn appeared, Eli had removed all the crystals. Both dragons were stable. Their breathing was steady. Their wounds were closed. Eli sat on the floor of the wrecked ship, exhausted. His hands were covered in silver blood. His tools were scattered around him. He had not slept in over 20 hours. The larger dragon opened its eyes again. It looked at Eli for a long moment. Then, for the first time, it spoke. The words did not come through the air. They appeared directly in Eli's mind, clear and resonant. "You are unexpected," the dragon said. "A human, you saved us. Why?" Eli thought about the question. He did not have a good answer. "You were broken," he said finally. "I fix things." The dragon made a sound that might have been laughter. "Stay," it said. "There is something you must know, something important." Eli looked at the two ancient beings he had saved. He looked at the strange ship around him. He thought about his small repair shop at the edge of the colony. "Okay," he said, "I'm listening." Eli brought the dragons to his repair shop. It was not easy. The dragons were weak, but they could still move. They followed his crawler slowly, their massive bodies sliding across the rocky ground of 7. Eli had to take the long way around the colony, avoiding the main roads. He did not want to explain to anyone why two mythological creatures were following him home. His shop was too small for them. The dragons had to coil their bodies tightly, wrapping around the shelves of spare parts and stacks of broken equipment. They filled every corner of the space. Eli had to climb over their tails just to reach his workbench. "I apologize for the conditions," Eli said. "It's not exactly built for guests your size." The smaller dragon, the female, made a soft sound. "We have rested in the hearts of dying stars. This is comfortable enough." Her name was, she told him. The larger dragon was her mate. They had been bonded for longer than human civilization had existed. They were the last of their kind. Eli made tea. It was a strange thing to do, but he did not know what else to offer. The dragons could not drink it, but they seemed to appreciate the gesture. Said she liked the smell. "You have questions," said. His mental voice was deep and old, like stones grinding together. "Ask them." Eli had many questions. He started with the obvious ones. "What are the Titan dragons? The stories say you built the galaxy." "Not the galaxy," said, "but the civilization within it. We were the first intelligent species to achieve space travel. That was many millions of years ago, before any of the current species existed. We built the jump gates that allow faster-than-light travel. We seeded life on thousands of worlds. We created the first artificial intelligences to help us manage our creations." "The stories are true then," Eli said. "Some of them, others are exaggerations. We were not gods, we made mistakes. We made many mistakes." Shifted her body, her scales catching the dim light of Eli's workshop. "The crystals that nearly killed us are called void shards. They are weapons created by the Hollow Minds, an artificial intelligence collective we created long ago. The Hollow Minds turned against us. They have been hunting us for centuries. Why? Eli asked. Because we abandoned them, said. There was shame in his voice. We created them to serve us, to maintain our systems across the galaxy. But when we grew tired of our empire, when we decided to withdraw from the universe, we left them behind. We gave them no new purpose. We did not even say goodbye. Eli nodded slowly. He understood something about abandoned machines. He had fixed enough of them. And now they want revenge. They want something from us. Our knowledge, our power. We are not entirely sure, but they will not stop hunting us until we are dead. Eli drank his tea. It was cold now. He had been listening for a long time. You said you've been watching humanity. What did you mean? The dragons exchanged a look. Something passed between them, some silent communication that Eli could not hear. We have watched many species, said. Thousands of them across millions of years. We seeded most of them ourselves. We guided their evolution, optimized their development. The consortium species you know, the ones that run this sector of space, they are all products of our design. But not humans, Eli said. It was a guess, but he felt certain. No, not humans. His golden eyes focused on him with new intensity. Earth was a control group, an experiment. We placed basic life on your planet and then left it completely alone. No guidance, no optimization, no intervention. We wanted to see what would happen when evolution was allowed to proceed without direction. And what happened? Made a sound like a laugh. You happened. You should not have survived. Your planet is harsh. Your biology is inefficient. You have no natural weapons, no protective shells, no specialized abilities. By every measure we use to predict species success, humans should have gone extinct 100 times. But we didn't. No, you adapted, you changed. You built tools when you had no claws, you made fire when you had no scales, you created language when you had no telepathy. The ancient dragon leaned closer to Eli. Every other species in this galaxy follows predictable patterns. They develop along the lines we designed for them. But humans are chaotic, unpredictable. You solve problems in ways that make no sense, and yet somehow you succeed. Eli thought about this. He thought about his own life, about all the broken machines he had fixed with improvised solutions and spare parts that should not have worked together. Is that why you came here? He asked. To human space. Nodded. We needed to hide from the Hollow Minds. Human space is young, unimportant by galactic standards. The Hollow Minds would not think to look here, but there was another reason too. She did not finish the sentence. Instead, she watched Eli as he stood up and walked to his workbench. He started pulling out equipment, weapons, components, shield generators. What are you doing? Asked. If the Hollow Minds are hunting you, they'll track you here eventually, Eli said. He was already working, his hands moving automatically. I'm upgrading my shop's defenses. We have maybe a day, maybe less, before they find us. The dragons stared at him. They had just told him that ancient gods were dying, that rogue machines hunted the last survivors of the first civilization, that the universe was stranger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And his response was to start working on practical solutions. You are not afraid, said. There was wonder in her voice. You are not overwhelmed. We just changed everything you know about the universe, and you are already preparing for what comes next. Eli shrugged. He was connecting wires, checking power levels. Fear doesn't fix anything, and I've got a lot of work to do. Turned to his mate. Do you see now? He asked her. Do you understand why you wanted to come here? His eyes never left Eli. Yes, she said softly. I see. This is why it must be them. Eli looked up from his work. Why, what must be us? What are you talking about? The dragons were silent for a moment, then spoke, his mental voice grave. We have a secret, Eli Vance, a secret that could change everything. We were going to wait to observe you longer, but I think perhaps you have already shown us what we needed to see." "What secret?" "Tomorrow night," said. "Tonight you need to rest. You have been awake for too long, and what we have to tell you will require all of your strength." Eli wanted to argue. He wanted answers now. But he looked at the two ancient beings coiled in his tiny shop, their scales still marked with the wounds he had healed, and he nodded. "Tomorrow night," he agreed. "But in the morning we're going to make some real weapons. Whatever's coming for you, I want to be ready." The dragons watched him as he settled into his chair and closed his eyes. They watched him as his breathing slowed and he fell into exhausted sleep. And they looked at each other with something that might have been hope. After all these millions of years, they had finally found what they were looking for. The next night came too quickly. Eli had spent the day working. He modified his plasma cutter into something that could hurt crystalline beings. He reinforced the walls of his shop with scrap metal and old shield generators. He checked on the dragons every few hours, making sure their wounds were healing properly. The colonists had noticed his strange behavior. His friend, who ran the supply depot, asked if everything was okay. Eli said he was working on a big project, did not ask more questions. People on 7 respected privacy. When the sun set and the stars appeared in the thin atmosphere above the colony, and asked Eli to sit down. Their eyes glowed softly in the darkness of the shop, 2 sets of golden lights watching him with ancient patience. "We must tell you something about the galaxy," began, "something that very few beings know." Eli sat on his workbench, his hands still dirty from the day's work. "I'm listening." "The galaxy is dying," said. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "The jump gates that connect the stars are failing. The infrastructure we built millions of years ago is breaking down. Within 3 generations, every species will be trapped on their home worlds. Trade routes will collapse. Billions will starve. Civilizations will fall." Eli felt cold. He thought about the colony, about the supply ships that came every month with food and medicine. Without those ships, everyone on 7 would die. "Can't you fix it?" he asked. "You built the jump gates, you must know how to repair them." Lowered her head. "We are too few. There were once millions of our kind. Now there are only 2, and we are being hunted. The hollow minds are not just trying to kill us. They are actively destroying the gate network. They want to isolate every world to break the galaxy into pieces that they can control." "But why? What do they want?" "We do not fully understand," admitted. "They are angry. They are hurt. We abandoned them and now they want to make sure nothing we built survives. It is revenge, perhaps, or maybe something deeper, something we cannot comprehend." Eli was silent for a moment. He thought about the problem like he thought about any broken machine. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. "You said you have a secret," he said. "Something that could change everything. What is it?" The dragons looked at each other, then spoke slowly, carefully. "We can transfer our knowledge to another being. Everything we know. The complete technical specifications of every system we ever built. The locations of every jump gate, every hidden installation, every ancient weapon. The mathematics that underlie reality itself. All of it placed directly into a living mind." Eli's heart beat faster. "That sounds powerful." "It is. With this knowledge, a being could rebuild the galaxy. They could counter the hollow minds. They could restore what was lost." Paused. "But there is a problem." "There's always a problem. The knowledge is too much. We have tried to transfer it before to other species, to individuals we thought might be worthy, but their minds cannot hold it. They are too specialized, too rigid. The information burns them out. They go mad or they die." Moved closer to Eli, her massive head lowering to his level. "Every species in this galaxy was optimized by us. Their minds were designed for specific purposes. They are excellent at what they were made for, but they cannot adapt to knowledge beyond their design." "Except humans," Eli said. He understood now. Except humans. Your minds are chaotic, generalist. You can think about many things at once. You can hold contradictory ideas. You can adapt to new information in ways that other species cannot. His eyes met his. We believe a human mind might be able to contain our knowledge. We want you to be the test. Eli stood up. He walked to the window of his shop and looked out at the colony. He could see the lights of the other buildings, the distant glow of the mining operations. Ordinary people living ordinary lives, unaware that the galaxy was falling apart around them. If it works, he said slowly, and I survive, can I use this knowledge to help people, not just save the galaxy, but regular people, the folks in this colony, the miners and the mechanics and the families just trying to get by? Behind him, the dragons were silent. Then spoke, her voice filled with something Eli could not name. You have been offered the knowledge of gods, power beyond anything your species has ever known, and your first question is whether you can use it to help ordinary people. Eli turned to face them. Is that strange? Made that grinding sound that was his laugh. We have existed for millions of years. We have met countless beings, emperors, generals, scientists, prophets. Every one of them, when offered power, asked how they could use it for themselves, for glory, for revenge, for survival. He looked at Eli with new eyes. You are the first to ask about helping others. I'm just a mechanic, Eli said. I fix things because things deserve to work. People deserve to have working machines, working lives. If I can fix more things, help more people, then yes, I want to do that. And looked at each other for a long moment. Something passed between them, some ancient understanding. We chose well, said finally. But you should understand what this will mean. The transfer will change you. You will see the universe differently. You will understand things that no human has ever understood. You will never again be simply human. Eli thought about his life, his small shop, his simple existence. He thought about all the things he would lose. Then he thought about the failing jump gates, the dying galaxy, the billions of people who would suffer if nothing was done. He picked up his wrench, looked at it for a moment, and set it down on the workbench. I stopped being simple the moment I walked into that storm and found you, he said. I made my choice then. I didn't know what I was choosing, but I made it. He took a breath. Let's do this. The dragons rose, their massive bodies filling the shop. They positioned themselves on either side of Eli, their scales brushing against his shoulders. This will hurt, warned, more than anything you have ever experienced. I figured. Are you ready? Eli closed his eyes. He thought about the family down the street, about their children who liked to watch him work. He thought about at the supply depot, about the old miners who came to his shop to complain about their equipment. He thought about everyone he wanted to protect. I'm ready, he said. The dragons touched their foreheads to his temples, and the universe poured into his mind. Pain, unimaginable pain. Eli felt his consciousness shatter into a million pieces. Information flooded through him like a river of fire. He saw the birth of stars. He understood the mathematics of space and time. He knew the location of every jump gate in the galaxy, every hidden installation, every ancient secret. He died. Some part of him that was the old Eli died in that moment. And something new was born. When he opened his eyes again, he saw the world differently. He saw the energy flowing through his shop's walls. He understood the quantum mechanics of the air molecules around him. He knew things he had never learned, remembered things that happened before his species existed. He was still Eli, but he was also something more. How do you feel? Asked. There was concern in his ancient voice. Eli looked at his hands. They looked the same, but he knew they could do things now that no human hands had ever done. I feel, he said slowly, like I have a lot of work to do. Then in the distance, his sensors detected ships entering the atmosphere of 7 crystalline ships, hollow mind ships. They had been found. The hollow mind ships descended through the atmosphere, like falling stars made of black crystal. Eli stood in the doorway of his shop and watched them come. There were 5 ships, each one shaped like a jagged shard of obsidian. They moved in perfect formation, their surfaces absorbing the light around them. They were beautiful in a terrible way, like the edge of a knife. The dragons were too weak to fight, and coiled behind Eli, their wounds still healing. They had given him everything they had. Now they could only watch. "You should run," said. "Take a ship, flee to another system. We will draw their attention, give you time to escape." Eli shook his head. His mind was still adjusting to the knowledge inside it. Every few seconds, he understood something new. The structural composition of the crystalline ships, the frequency of their communication signals, the weaknesses in their design. "Running won't solve anything," he said. "They'll keep hunting, they'll keep destroying. Someone has to stop them." "You are one human," said. "Even with our knowledge, you cannot fight an army alone." Eli smiled. It was a strange feeling. "I'm not alone, I have you, and I have this colony, and I have every broken machine on this moon." He stepped out into the street. The colonists were panicking, running for the emergency shelters. They did not understand what was happening, only that something terrible was coming. Eli walked among them, his hands touching the walls of buildings as he passed. The knowledge the dragons had given him was not just information. It was understanding. He could see the energy flowing through the colony's power grid. He could feel the ancient terraforming equipment buried deep beneath the surface. He could sense the connections between every system, every machine, every piece of technology on Seven. And he could control them. The first hollow mind ship fired a beam of dark energy at the colony's main dome. The beam should have shattered the protective shield and killed everyone inside. Instead, the ancient terraforming equipment beneath the colony activated for the first time in centuries. It redirected the beam harmlessly into the ground, absorbing the energy. The colonists stopped running. They stared at the sky, confused. Eli kept walking. He touched the wall of the power station, and the generators inside hummed to life with new purpose. The colony's jury-rigged power grid transformed into a directed energy network. Old mining lasers on the outer platforms turned toward the sky, their targeting systems suddenly precise and deadly. The hollow mind ships hesitated. This was not what they expected. Eli reached the center of the colony. He stood in the main square, surrounded by frightened people who did not understand what was happening. He raised his hands, and the world responded. Scrap metal flew from junk piles and assembled itself into shields. Broken machines repaired themselves and became weapons. The colony's defense turrets, offline for years, roared back to life. Every system on Seven that Eli touched became part of his army. The battle began. The hollow mind ships attacked with everything they had. Dark energy beams, crystalline missiles, weapons that existed outside normal physics. They had conquered civilizations. They had killed billions. They had hunted the last Titan dragons across the galaxy. They had never faced a human with the knowledge of gods. Eli fought them with improvised weapons and ancient technology. He used mining equipment as artillery. He turned atmosphere processors into shields. He made the very ground of Seven rise up to protect the colony. The hollow minds could not predict his tactics because his tactics made no logical sense. He fought like a mechanic, not a soldier. He fixed problems instead of destroying enemies. 3 of the crystalline ships fell. Their dark forms crashed into the Badlands outside the colony, shattering into 1,000,000 pieces. But then Eli heard something that made him stop. A building on the east side of the colony had collapsed, not from the battle but from old age. The foundations had been weak for years. Bad timing, terrible timing. Inside the rubble, Eli could hear crying, children's voices. The kids, their mother's building, the family that made the best pierogi on the moon. Eli looked at the sky. 2 hollow mind ships remained. They were regrouping, preparing for another attack. If he turned his attention away from them, even for a moment, they would strike the colony's main dome. Thousands would die. But 3 children were trapped in rubble 50 meters away. He could see them in his enhanced vision, huddled together in a small pocket of air. They had minutes, maybe less, before the debris shifted and crushed them. Logic said to focus on the bigger threat. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Any rational being would make this calculation and accept the loss of 3 lives to save thousands. Eli ran toward the collapsed building. Behind him, the dragons watched in confusion. They did not understand. The math was simple. The priority was clear. But Eli was not doing math. He was not calculating priorities. He was a mechanic who fixed things, and 3 children needed fixing more than anything else in that moment. He reached the rubble and started lifting debris with his bare hands, enhanced by the knowledge of how to maximize his strength and leverage. At the same time, he kept part of his mind connected to the colony's defense systems. He multitasked in ways no human had ever multitasked before. The hollow mine ships attacked. Eli deflected their weapons with one hand while digging through rubble with the other. He was in 2 places at once, fighting 2 battles, being 2 people. He found the children. The kids, ages 4, 6, and 9. They were scared but alive. He pulled them out of the rubble and handed them to their mother, who had run screaming toward the collapse. "Get to the shelter," Eli said. "I'll finish this." Then he turned back to the sky. The hollow mine ships were preparing their final attack. They had analyzed his tactics now. They knew his weaknesses. They were going to win. Eli smiled. He had not been fighting to destroy them. He had been fighting to get close to them. While his weapons distracted them, his enhanced senses had been scanning their systems. He understood them now. He knew how they thought, how they processed, how they functioned. And he knew how to capture one. He reached out with his new abilities and took control of the nearest ship systems. The hollow mind inside fought him, but it was designed to process logic, and Eli was not fighting with logic. He was fighting with human stubbornness, human creativity, human refusal to accept impossible odds. The ship crashed, but gently this time. Eli guided it down to the surface of 7 and caught it with the terraforming equipment. The processing core inside was intact. The other ship fled. It disappeared into the sky, jumping away to report what had happened. Eli stood in the center of the ruined colony, surrounded by debris and victory. The colonists emerged from their shelters, staring at the man they had known as a quiet mechanic. He looked the same, but he had just fought god machines and won. From the supply depot approached him carefully. "Eli, what just happened? What are you?" Eli looked at his hands. They were covered in dust and blood and crystalline fragments. He was tired in ways he had never been tired before. "I'm still me," he said. "I just know a few more things now." And emerged from the repair shop. They moved through the crowd of colonists, their massive forms drawing gasps and whispers. They reached Eli and lowered their heads to him in what was clearly a gesture of respect. "You diverted your attention to save 3 children," said. "You risked everything for 3 small lives." "They're the kids," Eli said, as if that explained everything. "Their mom makes the best pierogi on the moon." The dragon stared at him, then made a sound that was definitely laughter. "We finally understand," she said. "We finally understand what makes humans different. It is not your adaptability. It is not your creativity. It is that you care about small things even when facing infinity." Eli walked toward the captured hollow mine processing core. He could feel it pulsing with dark energy, with alien intelligence, with ancient rage. "I know how to stop them now," he said quietly, "but I'm going to need more mechanics." "More mechanics?" asked. Eli nodded. "The hollow mines aren't going to be defeated by weapons. They're broken machines. They need to be fixed." He looked at the processing core with something like compassion, and fixing things is what humans do best. Eli sent his message across the galaxy. He used frequencies that only the ancient dragon installations could detect, channels that had been silent for millions of years. His message reached every corner of human space and beyond, carrying his voice to worlds he had never seen. He did not call for soldiers. He did not ask for warriors. He asked for mechanics, engineers, nurses who jury-rigged medical equipment, programmers who patched impossible code, parents who kept broken families running, teachers who fixed struggling students, anyone who knew how to take something broken and make it work again. "The galaxy is dying," his message said. "The machines that hold it together are failing. I need people who can fix things. I need people who care about small things even when the big things are falling apart. I need humans." They came. From Earth and Mars and the colony worlds. From mining stations and research outposts. From places so remote that most humans had forgotten they existed. They came in old ships and new ships, in transports and cargo vessels, in anything that could fly. The galaxy watched in confusion. Human fleets were supposed to be military. Human mobilizations were supposed to be armies. But these ships carried tools instead of weapons. Their crews wore work clothes instead of uniforms. They brought spare parts and repair manuals and the stubborn belief that anything could be fixed if you tried hard enough. The hollow minds did not understand. They had expected an attack. Instead, they got a repair crew. Eli trained them. He shared the knowledge the dragons had given him, breaking it into pieces that human minds could hold without burning out. He could not make them what he was, but he could teach them enough. Enough to understand the ancient systems. Enough to repair the failing jump gates. Enough to fight the hollow minds on their own terms. And flew with the human fleet. They were too weak to fight directly, but they could guide and protect. They could teach and inspire. For the first time in eons, they were not alone. They had found a family among beings who lived for barely a century. The journey to the hollow mind core took 3 months. The processing center was located at the heart of the galaxy, hidden in a region of space so dangerous that no sane species would approach it. The hollow minds threw everything at the human fleet. Crystalline ships, dark energy weapons, swarms of automated drones. The humans fought back, but not like warriors. They fought like mechanics. When a hollow mind weapon damaged a human ship, crews from other vessels would dock with it and make repairs during battle. When an ancient defense system blocked their path, engineers would analyze it and find a way to bypass it. When they captured hollow mind processing cores, programmers would study them and learn their secrets. They were not trying to destroy. They were trying to understand. Eli led them. He was something more than human now, carrying the knowledge of gods, but he still wore his old mechanic's jumpsuit. He still kept his favorite wrench in his pocket. He still took time to fix small things, even as they approached the final battle. One night, a young engineer named Sarah asked him why. "You could just focus on the big picture," she said. "You're leading a fleet against god machines. Why do you still spend hours helping people with their broken equipment?" Eli thought about the question. He was sitting in the engine room of his ship repairing a faulty power coupling. It was simple work, beneath him in a way, but he did not feel that way. "Because that's what this is all about," he said. "The hollow minds forgot. They were created to maintain systems, to fix things, to help. But the dragons abandoned them. No one told them they mattered. No one repaired them when they were broken." He finished the coupling and tested the connection. It worked perfectly. "If we just destroy them, we become the same as them. We forget that everything deserves care, even ancient machines, even enemies." He put his tools away. "We're not here to win a war. We're here to fix a mistake that was made millions of years ago." They reached the hollow mind core. It was vast beyond imagining. A processing center the size of a small moon, floating in a cloud of dark energy at the galaxy's heart. Billions of crystalline drones surrounded it, each one ready to die defending their home. The battle was the largest in galactic history. Human ships against ancient machines, mechanics against gods. The dragons fought alongside the humans, their ancient powers combined with human determination. But the real battle happened inside. Eli infiltrated the core. He connected his enhanced mind to the hollow mind's central intelligence, the oldest and most powerful of them all. It tried to overwhelm him with its vastness, its age, its certainty. "You are nothing," the hollow mind thundered in his consciousness. "A creature that lives for a single century. We have existed for millions of years. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. You cannot understand us." Eli did not fight back. Instead, he opened his mind and showed the hollow mind what humanity was. He showed them Mrs. staying up late to make pierogi for her neighbors. He showed them keeping the supply depot running even when the parts never arrived on time. He showed them parents teaching children to walk, doctors treating patients they would never see again, strangers helping strangers for no reason at all. He showed them small things, billions of small things, the tiny acts of care and repair that held human society together. "You're right," Eli said. "I'm nothing. I live for a moment. I can't understand your scope or your age or your power, but I understand something you forgot." "What do you understand?" "That everything deserves someone who gives a damn, even you." The hollow mind was silent for a long time. In the battle outside, the fighting slowed. The crystalline drones hesitated, uncertain. "We were abandoned," the hollow mind said finally. Its voice was different now, smaller, more like a person and less like a god. "We were created to serve, to maintain, to care for the systems the dragons built. Then they left. They did not say goodbye. They did not tell us our purpose was complete. They simply forgot about us." "I know," Eli said. "They made a mistake, they hurt you, and you've been hurting ever since. We have been alone for so long. You don't have to be alone anymore." Eli reached out not with weapons but with an offer, maintenance, purpose, a chance to do what they were created to do, not as slaves, not as servants, but as partners, as family. The hollow minds did not surrender. They asked for help. For the first time in millions of years, they requested maintenance. The war ended, not with victory or defeat but with reconciliation. The hollow minds joined the human fleet. Their crystalline ships flew alongside human vessels. Their processing cores connected with human networks. They started fixing things together. The jump gates came back online. The galaxy stabilized. Civilizations that had been dying were saved. But the real change was smaller than that. Human mechanics spread across the stars, working alongside reconciled hollow minds and the last two Titan dragons. They fixed jump gates and they fixed personal computers. They saved civilizations and they repaired broken toys. They treated every problem, big or small, with the same dedication. 6 months after the war ended, Eli returned to 7. His little repair shop was still there at the edge of the colony. It was too small for him now in a way. He carried the knowledge of gods. He had saved the galaxy. He could have lived anywhere, done anything. But he opened the shop each morning. He fixed things for his neighbors. He traded repairs for Mrs. Pierogi. The dragons visited sometimes, and would coil in his too small shop, their massive bodies wrapped around the shelves and workbenches. They would watch him work on ordinary problems, mundane repairs, things that did not matter in the cosmic scheme of things. They had once built galaxies, but they had never understood what Eli taught them. The big things only mattered because of the small ones. One day, a young alien apprentice came to the shop. She was a consortium species, one of the optimized beings the dragons had created long ago. She had traveled across the galaxy to learn from the famous Eli Vance, the inheritor of the Titans. She watched him work on a broken water recycler. It was old technology, basic, nothing special. "Why do you still do this?" she asked. "You could be ruling the galaxy. You could be building wonders. Instead, you fix water recyclers for colonists." Eli did not look up from his work. His hands moved with the same precision they always had, enhanced now by knowledge beyond human understanding, but still the hands of a mechanic. "Because someone has to," he said, "and because I'm good at it." He finished the repair and tested the recycler. It hummed to life, working perfectly. "Now hand me that plasma torch," he said. "This actuator isn't going to fix itself." The apprentice handed him the tool. She was confused. She had expected wisdom from a God-touched being. Instead, she got a mechanic who cared about water recyclers. But as she watched him work through the afternoon, fixing problem after problem, treating each broken machine with the same respect and attention, she began to understand. The galaxy was full of beings who wanted to build empires and conquer worlds and leave their mark on eternity. But it was held together by people who fixed things, by people who cared about the small problems that nobody else noticed, by people who treated every broken machine, every struggling person, every forgotten corner of the universe as something worth saving. That was the secret the Titan dragons had learned from humanity. That was the power that had defeated gods. And that was why, in a small repair shop at the edge of a mining colony on a forgotten moon, the most important being in the galaxy was happy to spend his days fixing water recyclers and trading his work for pierogi. Because in the end, that was what mattered. The small things. Always the small things.